All right, so we are up and running. I'm Harrison Turner. I'm a consultant that works for the Nashville Department of Transportation. It is approximately 6:30 on June 12th. This meeting is for the Hobbs Road Participatory Budgeting Project. So we'll go ahead and get started. There we go. So just a quick overview of what is participatory budgeting. It's a chance for communities to get together and decide how we should spend money. What are the priority projects for the community? So you're able to go in, craft an idea of something that you need, or identify something that's needed, particularly with infrastructure, that the city can come in, and then those projects get voted on by the community to determine what needs to come in. And these projects are outside of the typical programs and processes of NDOT and Metro Water and all the other metro entities. So it's a way for communities to say, hey, we believe this is a priority and this is something that needs to be done. So that is what this project is. So it is a traffic calming focus project, but it's not part of the traffic calming program. It is its own separate participatory budget project. So the participatory budgeting timeline, like I said, it starts out with the approval of the budget and then idea collection. That's where the community and council members can come together and say, hey, these are the things that we really want. They do go on a ballot that is voted on by the community, where you're able to select which projects we think Nashville, Davidson County really need. And then once those projects are identified, the budget's set, then we move on to implementation, which is what we're doing right now. That's the step we're at with Hobbs Road. So that is where we go to engineering design. We design it, we go ahead and get it in construction, get it built, make sure that we're delivering on the projects that are identified by the community. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and jump in. I like to have this as kind of a back and forth. That way we can talk about it as we're going. So the project specifics for this project, it is a traffic calming project on Hobbs Road. So it is to add traffic calming measures on Hobbs Road at Julia Green Elementary to slow traffic and improve safety. We're trying to make sure that we're definitely safe around the elementary school. Kids walking to and from school, parents. We want to make sure they have a safe environment around the proximity to the school. That's the main goal. And the reason we're doing that is the focus. Yes, it is right in front of Julia Elementary. Yes. So this is actually exactly how it's worded in the memo.
So that means from.
So actually, we're looking at more spot measures. So individual locations directly in front of the school, not necessarily like a linear project. So the participatory budgeting amount for this project is $75,000. So that's what we have allocated, and that is construction dollars. So some street data about Hobbs Road at this location. It's posted at 30 miles per hour, which is a little fast for a residential street, but it is a collector. There's a lot of volume on it, so that kind of fits. Unfortunately, the 85th percentile speed is 40, which is much higher than we want, somebody walking on the street or really any interaction with like pedestrians, particularly kids. It is a fairly high volume street at 6,400 cars a day or vehicles a day. So that's a little higher than what we'd see like a typical like neighborhood street. That caps out at 5,000. So we can't do a lot of the typical traffic calming measures on Hobbs Road because it is such a high volume road. And it is, yes. So typically, a traffic calming program uses like a rubberized speed cushion or speed table. That's kind of our bread and butter is the speed cushions. They're the ones that are about 6 foot wide. They have gaps that allow emergency vehicles to go around them because they have like wider wheelbases, but still are wide enough to affect normal everyday vehicles. Unfortunately, those are kind of capped out at about 5,000 vehicles a day is really where we can't use them anymore just because of the durability of the rubber and manufacturer's guarantee and all of that. So we try to stay 5,000 or under for neighborhood streets. This being at 63, 64 is outside of that measure. So we can't really use those rubberized devices. So that is a option. We do have another option that I'll go over that is a little bit more permanent than just the flashing lights. I do like the flashing lights, particularly me as a driver. I feel like it helps me recognize I need to slow down, but I do understand there are limitations with them as well. So based on these are the street characteristics. And the other thing is the street width, 24 feet. That's fairly standard for a collector type road like Hobbs. not really wide enough that you can do anything extra with the pavement, but not really narrow enough to really try to slow cars down. It's kind of pretty well done for a street of that capacity. So that is the current. So this is the stretch of where we sent out the ballot or the mailers for people to attend the meeting. These are the people that are going to be most affected. Basically, we picked two major streets. Estes Road over here on the left and Hillsborough Pike is on the right. Julia Green, you can see, sits right in the middle of those. So that's really kind of the limits of what we're looking at as far as who should be involved in this process of bringing in input. But we are focused mostly in front of Julia Green. There are a couple of things we can do on the edges that would help, but primarily focusing right in front of Julia Green. So the three ways or the 3 E's of traffic calming, these are really fun. So the first one's education. These are the 3 ways we really slow streets in Davidson County. Education, things like this meeting, trying to get in front of the communities, reteach myself why we do this and why we need to be slower, especially in neighborhood streets, to help, with safety. The second one is enforcement. That's our great partners in the Metro Nashville Police Department. They handle this one. And then my personal favorite as a traffic engineer, this is where I get really nerdy, is the actual engineering, looking at all the street data and everything we can do. So just a little background of how we accomplish these things. And then this is why. It's the Vision Zero, which is the vision that we will have 0 fatalities on our roadway network. So just some stats about how speed correlates with a pedestrian fatality or really bad injury. So if a pedestrian gets hit by a car that's going 25 miles an hour, they have an 89% chance of surviving that incident. But if they're at 45 miles an hour, where Hobbs is at 40 for an 85th percentile speed, they only have a 35% chance of surviving. That's a huge difference with just a little bit of miles per hour difference, a little bit of travel time added. That really makes a difference if there is a collision between a pedestrian and a vehicle. And we do know we are all human, so things do happen, accidents do occur. We're trying to make sure that when an accident does occur, everybody's able to walk away. I do not have that directly in front of me. I can find it. Yeah, but I can get back to you on that one. So if you have any questions for Metro outside of traffic calming, outside of participatory budgeting, use Hub Nashville. You can go to hub.nashville.gov. You can call 311. I personally used it to fix some sidewalk in front of my house. There's a broken sidewalk and I put it in the hub and they got some contractors out. I have fielded these or do receive them, anything that's related to any project I'm working on. So they do go through them, look at them, make sure they send it to the right department, and then your need goes on a list to get addressed. So the 2 options for Hobbs Road, we'll go over those pretty in detail, and we can talk through those. So the first one is looking at a raised crosswalk. They can reduce pedestrian crashes by 45%. The approach ramps are really what works. Is basically they're a very large concrete speed table. They can reduce vehicle speeds because you have to go up them and down them, which really helps, especially at the individual point. They're about 4 to 6 inches tall, depending on curb height and other things. And that top part is a minimum of 10 feet wide. So unlike a speed cushion where it's kind of up and down, this one is longer. You go and you have the ramp. So it does create more of a visual thing, still a little bit of vertical deflection. Very good for individual locations. And because they're made of concrete, they can be used on roads with 30 miles per hour or less, and then about 9,000 ADT, where the other one was at 5,000. Yes. Yes. Yeah, yes. So our budget for this project is a little bit higher than like a typical speed cushion project. So we have $75,000. I've already talked with, we have several on-call contractors. So we've already had some conversations there to figure out what we think we can do. And depending on a couple different factors, we think we can get 1 to 2 of them under that $75,000. Yeah. Correct. They would be directly in front of Julia Green, the 2 best pedestrian accesses for Julia Green, trying to make sure that anybody crossing the road, anybody around that area, has a safe way to do this. I know these would be directly in front of Julia Green. So that is ideal, tying in the sidewalk or building a small connection to be able to tie them to existing infrastructure. The main focus with these would be the current main focus of these would be slowing streets or slowing the street, making it to where anybody is adjacent to Hobbs, if they happen to trip or anything and get hit by a vehicle or walk in the road, they would, they would basically be struck by a car at a much slower speed and then be able to walk away. So no, what we can do is we can connect to that sidewalk and then either have future plans to extend the sidewalk, or we do have, it's it's fairly residential. I do believe it is either a cul-de-sac or a closed loop on the other side. So it's a slower speed, much safer to be walking like on the shoulder on that side, compared to like Hobbs Road. We're going through, we're trying to figure out one or two based on the budgeting, and then we've got currently we're looking at survey and different topographic things and drainage to figure out where exactly we can put them, but we're mostly looking at the entrances of Julia Green. So, mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Mhm. Yeah. 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 So I pulled up a map just so I can have a little bit more reference as we're talking. So the original project was like I said, it's for Julia Green to make sure that we're safe there. So we were originally looking potentially one here at Wallace because there is existing sidewalk infrastructure here and either here or here. But if you're saying that up near Trimble is actually where people cross the road, is that correct? Mhm. 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 Yeah. Correct. Correct. Yes. Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Perfect. So that this is exactly why we have these meetings. These are but I do not live over here. I live over in East Nashville, which is a different area of town, different community. I don't know the ins and outs of exactly where everybody crosses. So this is all incredibly valuable information. And just so I can recap for the recording, um, what is the comments that have been made are that at the top of the hill near Trimble Road, all the way heading to the east is a really fast area of Hobbs Road, and there needs to be some protection there to be able to help the community at large, and that includes Julia Green. So if we're looking at two potential options, we the community is saying that the really areas of need are at Trimble Road and then over near the school over at Wallace would be the best option for two potentials. Is that correct? Perfect. Absolutely. We'll continue. So I'll pull this off screen, but yeah. So lights are a different. They're not free, but they are definitely a different. It's a different ballpark from budgeting standpoint compared to tables. Depends on different storm drainage and other things. Anywhere between like 20 to 40 is a good ballpark. Um, that is a ballpark, kind of off the top of my head number. So don't hold me to it if it comes in higher or lower. So we're assuming two is probably going to be right about that number. Should have a little bit of extra money because signage and lighting is not once again not free, but they're definitely not as expensive as trying to put in like a table. Um, yes. Mhm. Yes. Yep, absolutely. So that's one thing that NDOT and Metro Water they have meetings through a bunch of different departments internally between them to make sure that those type of conflicts. There is a software that we use as well that tracks projects that are going under construction. So if Metro Water is trying to dig in a roadway and NDOT wants to dig in the same roadway, the software will flag it and send both of the projects to the opposite. So we do have measures to try to catch that. It's not foolproof. It does happen on occasion. So I greatly appreciate you letting me know, but that's definitely something we do have some measures, and then I will personally make a note to make sure that that is coordinated. Because you're right, you don't want to install something and then immediately have it ripped up and then to install something else. So we do have to start at the bottom and work your way up. So the actual construction is pretty quick. For as far as the design goes, that can take a couple months to get everything done. But I do believe the funds have to be spent within the next 6 to 9 months or something like that. So it should be fairly soon. Mhm, mhm. Oh, absolutely. It's great idea. Also, they have the trailers that they can do that are completely temporary that we can. Correct. That's a fantastic idea. Yes. 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 Yeah. I do live roughly 20 minutes away. So yes. Correct. Okay. Yes. Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Mhm, mhm. Okay. No, that's very good to know. So have not looked at, like, I was focusing mostly on Julia Green, but I mean that's a huge site distance issue that definitely affects the area around Julia Green. So that's definitely something we need to consider. I do appreciate pointing that out. Yes. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. This is Mhm. Yeah. That's once again, this is incredible to know. Like I said, I do live in Davidson County, just on the other side of the river. So this is something that it's invaluable to me as we're making these engineering designs. So and that's thank you all so much. Also, your story really highlights really what we're talking about here is, we think with the with Vision Zero, we understand that accidents happen and people get distracted and people are people. So even if they haven't happened yet, they may happen in the future, and we want to make sure that if they do happen, that everybody can walk away. So going at a slow speed, if something does happen, people can still get up and not walk away and have still continue with their lives. So that's definitely something we're trying to do here. I thank y'all so much for the background knowledge of Hobbs Road, particularly from uh, really Trimble to Hillsborough. So any other questions while the map is up, or yes?
Um, but I just think that I think everyone, I have a question for, but I think in general, everyone's needs to be.
Correct. Yeah, it's got a flatter top. It's a wider concrete thing. They can. Yes. Yeah. It's a very common safety measure, particularly in high pedestrian areas around schools. It's really great use for them. Yes. Mhm. Yes.
it is a problem.
Absolutely. And we do have the stats that show, I mean, people are going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit with the 85th, and they're definitely not, that's not a safe place for pedestrians. And that's really where we want to make sure, with it being around the school, with it, I mean, that's, if you look, even looking at the map, that's a lot of houses in a pretty dense area. So there's a lot of pedestrians there, and we want to make sure everything's safe. Yes, sir. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's, oh, absolutely. And this is something that, like, I know that during the school hours when kids are walking around predominantly, there's crossing guards and lights and things, but when those aren't there, this would still be there. So it is something that would still be beneficial at night, and then off the peak hours as well. Absolutely. So let's see. So, this is the main, yeah. Any other questions? All right, so this is the main traffic calming item that we think is beneficial for this area, the raised crosswalk. And then the other option that we have, if I can get my mouse to work, is sorry, actually we have stats about vertical measures. So these are actually taken around different areas of Nashville, 6 different locations. These were mostly with speed cushions, but a vertical or a raised crosswalk, same idea. So they do work. They drop the speeds. So we got it down an average speed from 31 to 22, and these 6 streets, and the 85th went from 37 to 25. So y'all are about 40, so you can expect. Hopefully this will work around the same way, and you'll get to around 25 or so, which is much safer. Um, and particularly at the locations of the actual devices, it does slow even a little bit more. So the other option are, and I know we've already talked about these a little bit, but the radar feedback signs. I love these personally for myself because I tend to have to get reminded about how fast I'm going as a driver. So that's a great thing for me, especially in the areas that are high pedestrian. You make sure that I'm paying attention. So they do actually have an average speed reduction of about 6 miles per hour, and an 85th percentile speed reduction of about 7 miles per hour is what we're seeing with these. But they are not a physical measure, so they do just flash up your speed and then the posted speed limit. So they're a good tool, and especially on a temporary measure, or in conjunction with other tools as well. So
What's the average?
that is a great question. I actually don't have that number directly in front of me. So I would have to go look at it to actually give you a real number, but it's considerably cheaper than a raised crosswalk. It is probably less than that, probably. Yeah, the main thing is the solar and the actual like flashing, basically the electronic components. But yeah. So we do have there are, I do not know if they're actually NDOTs or if they're Metro PDs, but we do have the trailers that have the speed and everything. And then these are also they're quicker to install. So if we have the extra budget, we can put them in. We can get those in. They don't have to go in at the same time. Yeah. So yeah. 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 Thank you. Yes.
So I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, absolutely. Y'all are fantastic.
Um, and because this register.
Mhm.
So I guess my
me. Absolutely. So, trying to figure out how to do this quickly. So there's two types of those. There is a thing called a RRFB, which is a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. Those are cheaper, they're quicker, they're the ones that just kind of blink back and forth really fast. They're about yay-ish big, and they kind of go underneath the like crosswalk sign. Those are cheaper, quicker. They're not as effective as a pedestrian hybrid beacon, which is a much larger device. Both of them are used all around the U.S. There are several of both of them in Nashville. For Hobbs Road, we probably could do the RFB, which would be the smaller version, the cheaper version. But it's based on basically the speed and the volume of the roadways and when you use what. They're both button activated. Yeah. Absolutely. That's definitely something we can look into as part of this. So we do have radar feedback signs. I would consider them that all the same signage, solar powered signage. Absolutely. Great suggestion.
Well, okay, here's another question.
Um, that is a great question, and let me get back to you on that one. Because I would assume, yeah. Mhm. So so for anything else, this is our question slide, but so this is my email, harrison.turner@kimley-horn.com. For questions like the privately funded, anything like that, feel free to shoot me an email. I can track down the information and get it back to you. Any other questions, suggestions, feel free to email me, or you can also email NDOT traffic calming at nashville.gov. That goes directly to NDOT, and then they will sort it back, whether they'll handle it internally or send it to me based on what the question is. Yes. So what we'll do moving forward is so this is the second meeting that we've had with the community. Both meetings are very positive for the speed, for the raised crosswalks. Y'all have actually done a lot of the engineering for me as far as the location selection, which I greatly appreciate. So moving forward, we'll look at those two locations and then look at some corresponding signage. We'll get surveyors out if they already haven't started, and get those areas surveyed, go through the actual engineering design permitting process with NDOT and Metro Water and all the other entities that need to be involved, make all the coordination with other projects, and then we'll go and get the contractor out to get this installed. So those are kind of the steps. Yes. So yes, if you would like a map, I can give you a map once we make exact decisions. Um, yeah, it seems everybody's been very positive with it. So this is based on this conversation and the one for meeting one, we'll move forward with the 2 raised crosswalk locations. And I'll go ahead and get that into the engineering design so we can move forward with the design and permitting, and then we can move into construction as quick as possible. So that could be a next year's participatory budgeting project. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, Tremble. I, yeah, and mm, yeah. Mhm.
I just.
Yeah, yeah. No, so we typically do 2 meetings. This is the second meeting. And like I said, the first meeting corresponded with the second meeting. So everybody has been in agreement that the raised crosswalk is the way the community wants to go. So because there were about 11 or 12. Yes, the one in April. Yeah. Yeah. So this one's weird with participatory. Yeah, participatory is voted first and then designed. The other meetings or the other traffic calming program is you do the design and then present it to get voted on. So it's a little bit different with participatory budgeting. That's why it's a little bit outside the program. We can do bigger projects like this that are a little bit more funding. I think we can work something out to try to figure out how to get those 2 locations in. It should be able to make that happen. Hope we have $75,000. Uh, So the way I'm gonna phrase it is we're gonna have one at Julia Green, and then we're gonna have one trying to slow cars as they are entering towards or leaving from Julia Green at Trimble. Um, yeah, 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 yeah. It's twice a year.
The next one.
Um, yep. So yes. So one other thing is this is participatory budgeting for NDOT. There are several different programs and departments or sub-departments of NDOT and Metro Water and all the other entities. So if you have a project that you want added to one of their standard lists, it may take a little bit longer than trying to get one in participatory budgeting, but you can gladly put it into Hub Nashville of different issues like the other crossing that we're trying to have. You can put it into Hub Nashville and they can get on their list. Maybe they can pull something out of a different budgeting pool or a different project. Yeah. Yeah.
We do. So that last one. It's like, I mean, it's sidewalk, stormwater pieces. It's frustrating.
Yes. No, absolutely. Great conversation. So unless there are any other questions that we want to go over for the recording, I'm gonna go ahead and hit pause on that. But I'm happy to hang around and answer any other questions you have. If you have anything outside of this meeting that comes up that you want to talk about or have any other thing, question, go ahead. Feel free to email me or email NDOT directly, and it'll come back to me, and we'll move forward, try to get this built as quickly as we can. Thank y'all.